Wade, I'm always so struck when I'm working with faculty about the strong feeling they have of what they want the students to take away from their class, or some sort of impact that they want to have on students. But I've never asked you, what did you want when you were teaching?
Good question. I think as an educator, whether I was working with students or I'm now working with faculty, I always want the things that I'm doing as an educator, a teacher, to be effective with the folks I'm working with, so that it leads to something deeper in their lives as well, so that they feel more engaged with the world and perhaps maybe even more curious about the world around them, so that they get comfortable with that give and take of ideas that I think can be so enriching. What about you?
Well, that comfort is something I think about, is that I want to have them come away with comfort with gray, that there's not always right answers. I also always wanted them to be problem solvers, critical thinkers, and mostly I want them to come away with the feeling that they had a sense of agency, that they were connected with some aspect of the world, and that they could seek change.
Yeah, when we talk about it like this, it strikes me that we're talking about something that some folks refer to as significant learning that happens in the classroom, or when we're interacting with folks. That this is learning that actually makes a difference in a person's life. In some way, perhaps it leads to some kind of even transformation of their lives, so that we're changed. I know I've been changed by the things I've learned. How about you?
Definitely, I think that in my life I have had those experiences that have changed my worldview, just as we're saying.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we want to do as well in this our Early Career Institute as well, is to work with faculty in a way so that they feel more like that whenever they go in the classroom, that the things they're doing, in fact, are having that kind of impact, that kind of significance for the students. The things we're talking about really are now called significant learning, as we say, related to other practices as well. And this fellow L.D. Fink, I know, an odd name maybe, but some really good ideas. And his book on significant learning we're going to use in this institute. Can you maybe introduce and talk about a little bit his taxonomy?
I can. Well, let me start with a little bit of
Sure.
these sort of very simple points that certainly resonate with us. So he says, what are good courses?
Exactly.
Okay, so it really goes with what are good courses. So good courses challenge students to significant learning. So then he unravels that a little bit, and he says good courses use active forms of learning. We can talk about that. Good courses have teachers who care. Teachers who care about their students and the content, and teachers who interact well with their students. And then the last point, and these seem rather simple, is that teachers also have a really good system in place for feedback and assessment.
Right.
Students need to understand basic knowledge.
Right.
I mean, from there, they have to have other kinds of learning to learning that becomes useful, like application of knowledge. And then the students have to engage in learning that is integrative, that one thing leads to another, and that students make connections. He thinks a really important piece is that students put knowledge into a framework that is human, that there's a human dimension. What does it mean to our daily lives?
Right.
What does it
make sense? How does it make sense to my life?
Right, and others, the lives of others. And then this piece I think is interesting, is that he thinks there needs to be a caring dimension in the taxonomy. So that you need to appeal for significant learning to happen. You have to appeal to the values, feelings, and interests of students. So how do you embed that into your course? And then overall, I think a piece that really wraps it all up together is learning how to learn. What are processes that you can make explicit in your class about students becoming lifelong learners or self-directed learners, and how do you embed that in your teaching? So if you think of all of those pieces in an integrative whole, that makes for powerful, significant learning, don't you think?
I think that's really good. I think you've explained it well, and of course these are the ideas and things that we'll unpack during the course of the Institute as well, throughout this, both in January and throughout the semester.
Right, and I think it's simple but complex in terms of what do you do with that.
Right. So, Judy, how do we translate our dreams into reality? How do we realize these dreams in the classroom? Because sometimes when I think about it, I think there are problems that we've inherited that maybe we've even been part of. There's even kind of like this old kind of learning compact, an old social compact. You know, I'm the expert, you're not. I talk, you listen. You know, basically I might move around the room, but you're sitting there in that row. And all of that seems to me very passive.
Definitely.
And so how do we address that?
Yeah, it's good, very good questions. I mean, and there's even, you know, questions about do we even know what students are going to need to be effective citizens in this new world? You know, I know that there are just smaller level problems that teachers face day to day, and I hear this in my daily life, and I know that you do.
Yeah, you read about it as well.
Yes, you know, students come to class unprepared, they don't read, that's a big question. Students are bored, they don't seem
maybe
motivated.
because of the lecturing they're bored.
Right. And that they don't remember. Why are they not remembering what we're doing? And that some faculty say I have to repeat these things over and over again. There's a lot of solutions. Give them a pep talk, you know, make tests harder, make them accountable. But really embedded in all of those problems can be the idea of course design. Do it differently.
True. And I think that's where our own kind of growth and struggle as educators has led us, is that the key is to design the course in a way that really leads to learning, not just teaching.
Right, right. So we've been talking about the Institute and how to help faculty think about change and where to change and how to change. It seems a bit overwhelming. But I think that this author, L.D. Fink, has a very sort of sweet way and simple way to think about steps to integrated course design. This is going to take us a whole semester with our faculty. I'm really looking forward to that. But when he talks about ways to take it apart and put it together, I think they're very useful. So I wanted to show you what I was talking about.
Please do.
So of course, the situational factors, because there's no template or key formula that you can really use for this, that every individual has the size of their own class or the way they're situated in the department. So maybe it's certainly credit bearing, but are you going to get a credential from this? Or is it in a sequence of courses? So how big your classes are may also be a part of what you're doing, and how often you meet and how long you meet. So this is a big one in what I think influences 3 different components. These components really feed off each other. So one is what outcomes, what are the learning goals of the course, and how do you design that? And then also, what is important in what you do in your daily teaching and learning activities? So this is actually the place that we're going to start in the Institute, the teaching and learning activities. So that means how you lecture, what the discussions look like, what you do on Sakai, if you flip the class and you have technology solutions to your learning, so what the activities are. And then the last piece, or the third piece to this revolving puzzle, or spinning plates, if you will, is the feedback and assessment. How do you give students feedback? This could be the assignments, this could be the tests. This model is something that we're going to take apart in our institute. And actually, we're going to start here with teaching and learning activities. And so we're asking faculty, we're asking you to come prepared with a day of your teaching and learning activities, and we'll start there and move toward what is significant learning. I'm looking forward to it. We invite you to our institute.
We're really looking forward to having you.
See you soon.